For decades, brands have been fighting this loud, expensive, and honestly pretty annoying war for our eyeballs. But what if I told you that the greatest brands in history didn't fight at all? They used a secret playbook, a playbook that let them earn our attention instead of just buying it.
To really get our heads around this playbook, we first have to answer one huge question. In today's world, what do you think is the single most valuable resource?
Is it gold? The classic store of value for thousands of years? Nah, not even close.
Okay, what about data? Everyone says data is the new oil, right? We're getting warmer, but that's not it either.
The most valuable resource today is your attention. Think about it. In a world of infinite scrolling and endless content, your focused attention is the ultimate currency. And the brands that get this, they don't fight for it, they earn it. So let's see how they do it.
Let's start by winding the clock way back, over a century ago. Henry Ford had this massive problem. The car was a brand new, kind of scary, and really expensive piece of tech. How on earth do you sell something like that to people?
So Ford had a choice. He could have gone the obvious route, just shouting buy a Model T in every newspaper. But instead, back in 1908, he did something absolutely brilliant. He launched the Ford Times, a beautifully designed magazine all about travel. This wasn't some boring sales catalog. It was a pure invitation to go on an adventure.
And this, right here, reveals the genius of his thinking. Ford understood a deep, fundamental truth. He wasn't selling a machine. He was selling the why. He was selling the dream of the open road, the excitement of exploration, the feeling of freedom. He made you, the customer, the hero of the story. The car, that was just the tool for your journey.
All right, now let's fast forward about 100 years. At the end of the day, Red Bull sells caffeinated sugar water in a can. How in the world do you make that exciting? Well, you take the Ford playbook and you strap a giant rocket to it. Red Bull decided it wasn't going to be a beverage company at all. It was going to be a media empire that just so happens to sell a drink.
8 million. That is how many people tuned in live on YouTube to watch Red Bull send Felix Baumgartner to the literal edge of space for a record-breaking jump. Just think about that for a second. This wasn't an ad interrupting the show. Red Bull was the show. It was a historic event that millions of people actively chose to watch.
And their whole philosophy is right here. It's pretty simple. Don't interrupt what people are interested in, become what they're interested in. So instead of buying 30 seconds of ad time during a Formula One race, they just went out and bought the entire team. They don't just sponsor culture, they create it.
Okay, so if Ford wrote the first draft of the playbook and Red Bull perfected the high-octane execution, who wrote the definitive guide for our social media age?
Well, that would be Gary Vaynerchuk, or as you probably know him, Gary V.
His most famous idea is actually pretty simple. It's called jab, 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 right hook. The jabs are all about giving value. You entertain, you educate, you solve problems for your audience with zero expectation of getting anything back. You just give and give and give. The right hook? Well, that's the ask, that's the sale, and you only throw it after you've built a mountain of trust.
When you put it side by side, the contrast is just stark. The old way is constantly screaming, buy my stuff, 50% off. And what happens? We've all trained ourselves to just ignore it. But the Gary Vee way builds an actual relationship by giving you value first. And the result? You earn trust. And once you have that, the sale becomes a natural, easy next step. So what happens when we put all these pieces together? Well, we get a unified theory, a timeless playbook that connects a magazine from 1908, a space jump from 2012, and a modern social media strategy. It really just boils down to 3 simple rules. First, from Ford, sell the feeling, the dream, the why, not just the product. Second, from Red Bull, become the main event. Be the thing people would actually pay to see. And third, Gary Vee's lesson, generosity is the best marketing. Give so much value that when the time finally comes to ask for something, the trust is already there. So when you really put it all together, you realize the ultimate marketing secret, it's not a secret at all. It's a fundamental shift in mindset. You'll never have to fight for another moment of someone's attention if you can just become the thing they were already looking for in the first place.
So the real question to ask yourself isn't how can I get more attention, it's how can my brand be more interesting? If you enjoy breaking down big ideas just like this one, make sure you subscribe to Finologix for more. Thanks for watching.